Okay, what I'm going to be talking to you about in this video is maydays and forced landings. So there's a set procedure that you go through. If you lose your engine, you're going to want to check if you can actually fix the engine in the air. But the first thing you want to do is get 70 knots or whatever the best glide speed of the aircraft is, whatever you're flying. You want to maintain that airspeed. Now I'll give you the best horizontal distance to vertical distance ratio. So you'll go the furthest with what height you have. And yeah, so the first thing you do is get that speed. That's the most important thing. Second thing you do is identify somewhere to land, and that normally will mean a field, unless you're very lucky and you're close to an airport within reach. That field has got to be suitable. It's no point just landing in the middle of a hedge. It's all well and saying that in X-Plane or something, but in real life you can't land in a hedge, and you realistically also can't land on a motorway. Although I have seen someone do that before. So yeah, you want to be aiming for a field that there's the 5 S's that you go by. You want to know if it's a good slope, the size is correct, the surroundings are okay, so there's no like pylons or other obstructions, might be surrounded by trees. The surface needs to be good, so there's no point trying to land in a meadow. I mean, there's no point trying to land in a massive field which has got loads of crops in it. That's probably going to just dig into your aircraft and you'll flip over. And you also want to make sure that it's safe. So is it within your gliding distance? No point trying to go for a field that you're probably not going to make. And probably, I mean, if you can't be sure that you're going to make a field, don't go for it, because the worst case scenario is that you're going for a field and at the last minute you realise you're not going to make it because you can't correct at the last minute. So I haven't cheated, so I don't know where I am. I'm going to cut the engine there. So best glide speed in this is about 70-75 knots, so I've got that there. Now I'll come down. Gonna trim for that speed. Okay, now a field. The wind is coming from the north, so I'm going to want to land into wind if I can. There's a nice field down there that I'm going to go for. Well, there's quite a good few fields. Yep, I've got my eyes on one. It's quite easily visible. It's the fairly brownish one in the middle there. And the thing is with height from such a high height like this is that you can never really be sure about the slope until you get a lot closer. So what I'm going to do is going to keep the airfield to my left, so I can always keep it out my left hand side window, and I'm going to start to circle around it. Because I'm at 4,500 feet, I don't particularly need to worry about being within the distance of it, the glide distance of it, because I'm very much in there. So I'm just going to circle around it and basically going for a overhead join, if you're familiar with one of those. I'm going to cross it over here and going to circle around on the other side and descend and hopefully land on the field. Now if you'll notice, you might not be able to see this, but there's actually a road going through that. That should be fine though, because it's not a major road, so there's not going to be any bridges or obstructions there. So that looks good. Okay, now I'm confident with my speed and my landing destination. I'm going to try and fix the problem, and of course I know the problem is now that I just cut the throttle, but in real life you're going to want to check that the mixture's fully in, there's no carb icing, so you want to take the carb ice out. Go through any of the fuses, check magnetos if you want, anything that could affect the engine. Of course that depends entirely on what aircraft you're in. And now I've realised that I can't fix the problem, so I'm going to now put in 7700 into the transponder. That's universally or internationally accepted transponder emergency code, so I will now pop up on their radar as an aircraft in distress. And I could also now tune into 121.5, which is the, at least for the UK, the emergency code, emergency frequency. So on here I can broadcast my Mayday, and with the Mayday you just say Mayday, Mayday, Mayday 3 times, and then you want to go with whatever station that you're talking to. So I would say D&D because that's what distress and diversions I think it is, distress and, well anyway, whatever station you're talking to. So Mayday, 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 D&D. Then you want to go with your aircraft call sign, which in here is just going to be the aircraft make, so November 172 Sierra Papa. Then you want to go with your aircraft type, which is, in this case, a Cessna 172. Then you want to have your nature of emergency, in which this case here is a critical engine failure. And then you want to tell them what action you're taking. So I'm intending to land in a field. And then you want to give them your position, heading, altitude, possibly your qualification level, and any other useful information to them, like if there's any other people on board, they'll want to know that. In case there's a death, which, you know, it could be. So once that's all done, you don't have to talk to the tower anymore. That's completely up to you if you want to. So I want to make sure that I'm always within gliding distance of that field. I don't want to undershoot it. Overshooting is correctable, undershooting isn't. So after doing all that, you can now prepare for touchdown. And what you want to do there is, after you finish talking to the tower, turn the master switch off, because that's going to cut all electricity supply around the aircraft. So on impact, if there's a spark, well, there's not going to be a spark, so there's much less chance of a fire. And I'm now definitely within gliding distance of the field, and I'm going to increase the flaps now, because as you increase flaps, the drag of the aircraft increases, so I am less likely to overshoot. And you only ever increase your flaps once you're sure that you can make it. Notice that I'm landing into wind, which is always beneficial, because as you land in a field, whatever speed you have is going to make a fairly large impact on touchdown. So you want to be landing as slow as possible, but not stall down, because then you're going to just plant your wheels in and you will have a bad time. So what I'm doing now is doing some S turns to decrease my height before reaching the airfield, or the field which I intend to land in. Because I am quite high, I'm doing rather large S turns, bigger than I'd liked. And also at this point, you'll still be preparing for impact, so depending on what aircraft you're in, you might want to open the doors so you can have an easy escape. Make sure your seatbelts all fastened up, and again, depending on what aircraft you're in, you might want to brace for impact. There might be a set out position you might want to adopt, especially if you have passengers. It will most likely have some sort of position that you want to take them in, and you want to keep your passengers informed as well. Having a distressed passenger isn't going to help. Okay, so I'm now very close to the field. Gonna get my height down as much as I can. I'm still much higher than I like to be, so that's why I'm kind of taking vigorous sizes. Okay, I'm not going to make this field, so I'm going to go for the one directly opposite. That one I'm going to make, and my speed will be much more beneficial for it. Notice there's no point diving into a field that you're not going to make. So here we go, slow, flaps are fully down, and just land like you would on a runway, as slow as possible but not stalled. and into the ditch at the end of the field that would be there. And then as soon as you land, you want to be getting out of the plane just in case there is some sort of leakage, and make sure everyone's alright. And then if everything is secure, you can call someone for some help.